Welcome to Real Estate Coach Uncensored on Inman News, where you'll find the best practices, tools, and technology tips to help you grow your real estate business. Here are your hosts, Bernice Ross and Greg McDaniel.
Welcome. In today's column, I talked about reports from the field, what's really happening out there. And there's a lot of statistics in the column, but what Greg and I want to do today is we want to take a deep dive into what's happening in the Bay Area, because you're one of the few areas in the entire country that's totally locked down, and then how that is impacting your market, as well as what agents can do to deal with the actual problems that they're facing out there. So Greg, let's take a look at some reports. What's happening? I was surprised at the numbers that we were talking about before we began recording for today.
Okay, let's take a look at some of the what's going on right now in the Tri-Valley area where I work in the San Francisco East Bay. Since a week ago, we have brought on 66 new properties, which is really great. What we've seen in regards to pending properties, we have 76 properties, so an additional 10 properties have gone pending versus the 66 we brought on. So very healthy market here, and we've only seen 42 properties withdrawn, canceled, or temporarily withdrawn. I know different parts of the market are seeing different things. But we're over here in our area, and I can say as well in San Francisco, the market is still churning. There's still high demand. We're still processing. We're still getting deals closed. We're still getting them into escrow. The banks are still working with us. So for us, it's relatively business as usual, minus the open houses. But I mean, we'll talk about that later in the article. But I mean, it's a good market, man. It's a good market.
And but you've been in a super high demand area, so. You had some numbers regarding the open houses.
Bernice, I did some research here in the Bay Area, and I went to our big blue friend over here, and I did some research, and I searched for the San Francisco Bay Area, and I searched for everything that's for sale here in the Bay. And as you guys can see, there's quite a few red dots, and a rumor that's been going around is that there are no open houses. So I wanted to see if that was true. And so I went up here, I went to more, and then I went to must have open house. I clicked on that. And then we see that we still have a significant amount of open houses that are being offered out on our big blue friend. So it's interesting to see.
So Greg, this is what's happened after the lockdown went into place. It does look like business as usual.
It really does. I think a lot of the fear mongering that's taking place is happening. And I think a lot of us are buying what's taking place. And if we look at the numbers, the actual business numbers, at least right now in my area, we're still seeing a vibrant, thriving market. And we need to be able to understand that, not be afraid to go out there and contact our clients, say the hello to past clients, reach out to local businesses, just really kind of be the community leaders that we all are.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more on that. And, in the article, I cited a bunch, I went to the Inman Coast to Coast community and asked them what they were experiencing out there. And I had, one set of agents said, one company said, it was one team said, we've got 21 pendings. Another one said, I've got 19 new pendings, business as usual. Almost everyone, I didn't have anybody say that there had been a major decline. It's like, we've seen a slowdown, but not a stall. So, there's some things that are happening we're going to talk about in a moment in terms of, some of the actual nitty gritty details of what you need to deal with and how to deal with those. But again, the whole thing that's going on here right now is, it's surprising. And I was expecting it to be worse. I didn't expect there to be so many open houses. Now, Greg, you did say that a lot of people are doing something called open by appointment. Could you say more about that?
So what we're finding is that some folks, there was a poll that was put out on Facebook by a good friend of mine who runs a very large Facebook group. And he said, from 1 to 5, where are you in regards to your lockdown? 1, business as normal. 2, a little more cautious. 3, working from home, going out when only needed. 4, just friends and family. And 5, full lockdown, nobody in or out, right? 75 to 80% of the people were in between 2 and 3. Like one guy was a 1 and like 4 or 5 people were 5s. But to combat the fear, something that I see a lot of people doing is something I highly encourage as well. In all cap letters in your description, both on all public forums, right? No public open house, open by appointment, call agent for appointment, you know? And then it's simple. I went to Trader Joe's the other day to get some food, and it was amazing because I walked in, the level of service was better than I'd seen in any other store. What I did was I came in, there was a line of 3 different people, employees. One had hand wipes for your cart or hand thing. One had a spray thing of antibacterial stuff for your hands, and the third one had a towel. And they're like, "Would you like this?" I'm like, "Oh, thank you very much." Hand sprayer? Yes, I would. Thank you. Towel? Yeah, well, that's very nice. And I think that level of service could be instrumental in a multiple different ways. One, in the quality of service you're giving to your current clients. Two, you're showing your prospective new clients that are walking through that front door. It could be the neighbors or buyers that you do actually take to the next levels, and to your competitors and your coworkers, going, "Hey, this is a really good idea. Maybe I should do it for my clients as well." The whole industry can help each other. So that's how we're seeing it with these for sale by not for sale by owners, but by appointment only open houses. And I'd love to see this.
So they're really not open houses. They're just really by appointment showings. And, I came out of the Southern California market where every single showing we did had to be accompanied by the listing agent to put a real cap on how many transactions you could do. It's just like,
Yeah.
you need a showing agent really quickly. Now, you've seen the number of pendings have gone up. We talked about that. What's going on? Your market sounds strong. You still see multiple offers with over asking price?
Yes. I have a client of mine that is looking in the San Francisco market, proper. She gave me 4 properties to look at yesterday. 3 of them were already pending with under, double-digit days on the market, multiple offers, 10, 15, disclosure packets out, all at least $200,000 over list price, and closing, within a very short amount of time. Still, at this point, they're still getting the appraisals done. That might have changed, but at that point, when I spoke to them, they're still getting the appraisals, and the banks are still working with them. So, yeah, it's crazy.
Well, and you mentioned the banks. There are a couple of things I want to touch on. First of all, the Trump administration came out a few days ago and said no FHA, no Fannie or Freddie foreclosures, and no evictions for people that have those loans. So if you do get into trouble, that's good news to share with your community. As Greg was talking about, you want to be that source of great information that supports them. Now, I want to come back around to what's happening with psychologically, what I saw in the comments in terms of what people are doing is like there's a rush to get a property under contract and closed before this thing gets worse. Or if I know for sure that I want to be moving because I want to be in the school district for September, then, I need to be moved, I need to get moved sooner rather than later. I may not be able to do it later on if this thing takes longer to work through, some people are talking about lockdowns for 18 months. I can't imagine that.
Right.
People are going to end up going through, kind of working through what needs to happen here. One of my friends used to say, she was in the technology business. She says, America is the great workaround society. No matter what happens, we'll figure it out.
We
And you
are.
can see that's going on. So you're working with a $2 million all cash buyer. She sold her house. What are you doing to find properties to show her?
You know what? So I was talking with her the other day, and my mind was moving. She's like, "Greg, I am homeless. I have tons of money. I want to buy a house." And I said, "I completely hear where you're coming from. Let me see what I can do." And so I was racking my brain, and I'm like, "Well, I don't know where this is going." I said, "Well, you know what? Why don't I reach out to all the real estate agents, the listing agents and brokers of the properties you wanted to or did make an offer on. Let me just double check and see how they're doing and see how the progress is." So I went and I called the different agents, and each one of them has said that their offers were going to go through and everything else. But each one of those agents, actually really meant when they said, "Greg, thank you so much for calling. We really appreciate that. We'll definitely keep you up what's going on." So then, what I did is I went out and I researched all the for sale by owners. Not a lot of them in San Francisco, but I researched them and I reached out to them, had a few good conversations. Then I'm going to go back and look at all the expireds. go back maybe a year or so for all the expireds in the San Francisco area, started calling them. Then I can jump in and start calling the for rent by owners, and see if, hey, are you going to be missing a couple of payments? Is this affecting you in some way, shape, or form? I got a bailout potential. I got a client that's cash heavy, ready to buy. She wants to buy in this area. Would you be willing to sell? And for all of you guys that don't know what a for rent by owner is, I use a system called RedX. I use a triple line dialer, and so I've been able to chew through. And this is one of the programs that I buy from them.
And excuse me for interrupting here, but you can use this without a triple dialer.
Yes, yeah. Of course. You don't have to be super efficient, but if you want to be super efficient, that's what I've been using for a long time, and it just makes it easier to call through, leave messages, and go to the next property, and then people will call you back. And I've had some great conversations with people. So it's just thinking outside the box, going to what I call blue water hunting, Bernice. Red water hunting
Wait, blue water hunting?
You don't know where blue water hunting is? Yeah, of course you do.
Some people don't. I do, but I guess.
So blue water hunting is doing what everyone else is not doing.
Yes.
Red water hunting is just looking at what's on the big providers, on the listing hubs, and just going after those single properties, going after and finding, think out of the box, go do something different that nobody's doing. That's blue water hunting. So that's what I'm doing right now for my clients. And so far, the conversations and the experience has been really great, actually.
And I do want to say something that I said in the article. What we're seeing right now, there was a report that came out of Google, and I think it was referenced by Point Two, the links in the article. But actual search for listings right now is down by 25%. I heard that Zillow, Erica Ramos was reporting she's been paying for Zillow leads. Zillow leads have dropped way down in her market, as have the conversions from her website. So website leads have dropped. But what's interesting, this report that I referenced from WordStream said that agent conversions have gone up by 30%. So people are no longer kind of looking for the house on their own. They're saying, I want to work through an agent who can actually make an appointment for me and arrange this and guide me through this time where there's so much uncertainty. So, and could you elaborate, Greg, on what you're saying when you call these various properties? I love for rent by owners because, prospecting them, if you've got one, if that person owns one investment, they may have 4 or 5, and this may be scaring them at this point. They may not want the overhead. They may want to get their cash out, and you've got there are a lot of buyers in your marketplace. Great time to get them listed. So you mentioned what you would say for rent by owners. Would you kind of tell us that? And then could you share your scripts for sale by owners and expires? What would you say if you were talking to me?
Okay, so we're going to do a for rent by owner first. Is that correct? Okay, so we'll do for rent by owner. So I would say, hi, is this the owner of 123 Main Street? And then you say yes, and I say, hi, Bernice. My name is Greg McDaniel. I'm an agent with ABC Real Estate, here in town. I'm giving you a call today. I see that your property at 123 Main Street is or was up for rent. Did you folks have an opportunity to rent that yet, or is that still available? Now, what I'm doing is I'm splitting the path there with them, because if they say no, it's still available, I can immediately go in and say that, and by the way, no matter what they say, guys, your response to is, that's exactly why I'm calling. That's my dad's response, Terry McDaniel. He's taught me that script, and I love it. No, it hasn't been rented. Oh, well, that's fantastic. That's exactly why I'm calling. I'm looking to help folks like you get properties rented in this turbulent time, and I wanted to see if I could come on out, take a look at the property, and have a conversation with you and show you what we can do to get it rented. And then you build a relationship from there. And then if they say it has been rented, oh, that's fantastic. That's exactly why I'm calling. Actually, I'm calling today because I have a client of mine that's looking to purchase in the area, and they love properties with tenants in them. I was wondering if if you were thought about maybe selling the property, given the fact we have uncertain times coming down the path, and we don't know quite where this market's going to go. If I could present to you an active buyer, would you be willing to consider at least a full market value purchase price? And you start your conversation, you go from there. I found those to be the best. Those are like those are the golden nuggets nobody ever looks for, because everyone goes, why would I call it for rent by owner? Well, it's because birds of a feather flock together. People who have rental properties hang out with other people that have rental properties. People that have rental properties have money. People that have money hang out with other people that got money. All right. So it's just a great place to build this momentum and help people. I've taken multiple listings purely be going out and helping them rent or having a conversation about renting their property. And I was just trying to help out. And then they called me up and said, hey, Greg, we were thinking about selling it. Would you sell it for us? I'm like, yeah, no problem.
And that is one of the biggest golden nuggets I've ever heard in my lifetime. Used to train this many, many years ago. Go look for the people who are absentee owners, and because those are usually investment properties, and chances are they'll have 8, 9, 10 or more properties. They believe in investments, they buy them. So one of those leads can be worth 10 or 12 regular residential, property leads. Now, if you're calling expireds, I don't, I know a lot of people treat this as their secret sauce, but you have to, everybody has to have their own style. What do you say to those expireds when you call?
I was actually doing some calls last night with RedX. They had released a new algorithm, which is absolutely phenomenal. Had some of the best conversations I've ever had. But it's very simple. Again, it's what you do when you're doing any of these calls, Bernice. It's not, you're out there being a headhunter. You're not trying to take advantage of people. You're trying to bring value to them. My father's always said to me, Greg, go out there and you're the doctor that has the cure for whatever is ailing them. And everybody likes me. They just don't know me yet. So that's what I tell myself when I'm on the calls, right? And so I go out there and I'm like, hi, is this the owner of 123 Main Street? Well, yeah, it is. Oh, perfect. Hey, my name's Greg McDaniel. I'm an agent from ABC Real Estate Agency here in town. I'm calling because, and I just want to double check your property at 123 Main Street. It looks like it expired on the 1st of, 1st of December of last year. Did you actually get that property sold or not? And then they say yes or no. And then I do that's exactly why I'm calling. And I go into that script. And then I just start building the relationship. I use the Ford conversation: family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. Walking down those stair steps, trying to figure out what their story is and what I can do to bring value to them. And if I can't bring any value, hey, Bernice, I appreciate your time. You've been a gem. Have a beautiful, blessed evening. Take care now. But if I can, great. Let's continue the conversation. Let me get your email. Let me put you on my email list. Let me follow up. Let me get you into my ecosystem so you can start seeing who I'm about. And if you like me, great, let's do business and then follow up with you. And like I said on the phone call, and the expireds are not that hard. I mean, there's a good friend of mine. He's a script goes, hey, is this, you're the owner of 123 Main Street. Yeah. Okay, good. Hey, I'm looking at my data here and it looks like your property didn't sell. And I got to ask, how in the heck did your property not sell? It looks beautiful. And he delivers it so beautifully. And that's my buddy Aaron Wittenstein out of White Plains, New York. And he just does such a perfect job of delivering it. And people open up. They open up like, well, I don't know. We thought it was great. And so, I don't know.
Got to find a script that works for you.
True.
Okay, we're going to take a look at some of the problems that people are seeing out there. So we've talked about how to handle the open house issue. If you can't do opens, do the in-person appointments. What's your recommendation if they have problems with the appraisals? I talked to I chatted over at the Inman Group with Mary Pope Handy, who's working over in Silicon Valley. And she said that the recorder's office was closed, but now they're doing e-closings. But what happens when you've got an appraisal that is an issue, or if they can't get an appraisal out, things go really south? Are you seeing, how would you work around that? If I said, Greg, we can't get an appraiser out there, what do we need to do next?
So I was speaking with my lender, Miles, and he and I were talking yesterday about this exact issue. And I said, Miles, what's going on with the appraisals? And he said, well, Greg, some lending houses aren't going to do them. Some are. And I said, okay, well, how are you getting around it? And he said, well, easy, Greg. I just pick up the phone and I dial 4 or 5 or more appraisal people and say, will you come do this appraisal on this property? And he said about 3 said no, 2 said yes. He picked one, they went out and did it. So I would work with a lender that's got multiple resources at their fingertips who cannot just be a one-stop shop. or one trick pony. They can be something that can, reach their arms out and go to different resources and be that person who can actually get the deal done. I mean, that would be
Yeah,
my personal opinion.
what you're saying is a huge takeaway is that, this is one of the reasons we want to see people using mortgage brokers than just using a single bank that only has their offerings. But more importantly, we also want to see, you want to work with somebody. If you've got a great mortgage broker who knows how to work things, and at this point in time, experience does matter. You need somebody who's been through a downturn, because it's like, I always had my best markets in the downturns. I made so much more money. Anytime there was a downturn, I just did very well. But that's being able to work through the challenges in the transaction, as opposed, find that workaround that's going to work. So, you suggested changing lenders, changing appraisers. If you've worked with appraisers in the past, who has that lender work with that they like, that they know that the bank would take? Given the state, the times that we're in, would the lender that you've got take an appraisal from another service that's qualified? You can ask those kinds of questions. Sometimes it's just a matter of asking the questions and getting the answers.
It is. Another source, Bernice, is if you're in any office or brokerage that you're in, go to the top producer and say, you got to have how many pending right now? Who's your lender? Can I talk to them? Could you do an intro for me? Because obviously they're getting it done.
Yeah, that's great. If you see somebody, one of these teams is getting a lot, they're closing a lot of deals. They're not just making them. But they're actually closing. Those people you want to tell, and I'm certain that most of them will be willing to share, especially with what's going on. Now, sometimes a couple of people that I got from the Inman Group said that they'd had a delay because one of their clients that has been put under quarantine with COVID-19. So how would you handle that transaction? You're under contract and my buyer's got COVID-19 and all of a sudden, they're not moving, they can't perform. What would you do next?
I would honestly have my client who is under quarantine with COVID-19, have them assign a power of attorney to a friend or family member they trust implicitly, have that friend or family member sign the documentation in compliance with the agreement that client had with the buyer or seller, or whatever side you're on. And then move forward on that one. It is the easiest, cleanest, simplest way to go forward on it. So that's what I would recommend. Bernice, what would you do?
Well, probably what I would do is ask for an extension on the escrow, or on the transaction close date. And I like what you suggested, but if they've got COVID-19, I don't want to have somebody go in there post-fact, after the fact, when they're sick, to sign something. So kind of be proactive in this respect. Go out and get when you put a property under contract, have them designate a power of attorney, have that signed off when they go under contract while they're healthy. Then you've got that as a fallback if you need it to close. In the case you described, they could sign it, but they're still not going to be able to move in. So, they just you need to work around the details on that. Now, I had another problem that popped up. One of the people posted, due to the stock market crash, my 20% down payment is now 6%.
That's a drop.
Now you're in the Bay Area. You had some interesting numbers for me because, again, you're at the high end. What kinds of numbers would I be looking at that I could maybe get some down payment assistance possibly, or what's available in your area?
Well, of course, we can always look for down payment assistant organizations. I know you have a good one that I want you to recommend.
Yeah, it's downpaymentresource.com.
Downpaymentresource.com. I know here in the Bay in California, you can get loans at as little as 1% down for up to $750,000 purchase. You can do FHA for 3.5% down, 1%.
Who's doing
$7,500. Miles told me about it. I mean, 1% down. That's $7,500 down on a $750,000 purchase. That's incredible, right?
This is the stuff that the last downturn was made out of.
That's what I was saying. But it's available, and as long as you have the, the last downturn, you could fog a mirror and you could get a loan. I mean, now you have to actually bring your papers and credentials and show your papers, your stubs and everything else. But I mean, there's a lot of options out there. Yeah, you're going to get MI on that, of course, but MI is mortgage insurance. But you can also refi that out down the road. I mean, why don't you just get into the property, start living in it, and build up some equity, build up some reserves, refi out and then bring your payment down later down the road. I mean, there's just a lot of options here.
Now, I'm also hearing that we're getting, I never want to use the term bottom feeder because that gets in the way of the negotiation. I always want to, I want to say somebody who's writing offers substantially under asking price because that moves the negotiation forward. But are you seeing kind of more of an influx of investors or people who are looking for that really incredible deal, or that's not quite showing up yet in your market because there's still a lot of multiples?
Well, it really depends what marketplace you're in, right? So in the Contra Costa area, we price properties at the value. That's kind of how we do our business. We don't price it under. In San Francisco, you'll price it at least 15 to 30% under. So we plan on $200,000, $300,000 above list naturally for them to go for what they feel is market value. So if you're going to get a person who's looking for a deal, let's put it that way, because again, we don't want to use the word bottom feeder. If we want to use someone who's looking for a deal, I think that they may have thought the idea was going to be a good idea, but now looking at these stats and if they're doing their research, they're seeing that that's not the case, that the markets aren't stalling here in the Bay Area and the buyers are still coming out in droves to pay. So we haven't seen them here, not yet. So who knows? Maybe we'll see them in 2, 3, 6, 12 months. We don't know, but as of right now, no.
Well, other places are seeing that. And one of the people that responded was talking about a tale of two markets is, and I don't know if you're seeing this, but I know this was happening before we had COVID-19. The low end of the market was just like screaming hot seller's market. And then you get into the higher price ranges and on places like New York and Seattle, certainly, and now with COVID-19, it's worse. But those markets were already flattening or falling on the very high end. Have you seen that in the Bay Area?
Again, in the San Francisco Peninsula and South Bay, I think South Bay, I've heard reports that you brought in that they are seeing a little bit of a slowing. San Francisco, no, they're still on fire. There are going to be some properties that were trying to take advantage of the explosive growth that was taking place, and they may be dinged because they were bringing subpar properties onto the market and trying to just gouge the buyers. I think that's going to hurt them, but I still see them coming along quite nicely. So again, I don't have a crystal ball. If I did, I'd be in Vegas putting everything on black, but I don't.
Yeah, the casinos are asking for bailouts now. So.
Might help them.
Absolutely. So also there was one other problem that somebody brought up. They said they couldn't, where they are, they have to have somebody come out and certify. I don't know if it's fire department or someone has to come out and certify that they're smoke detectors. How would you go about that if you can't get the certification services that they're not, quote, essential, they're not essential services? How would you work around that, Greg?
I'm not an appraiser, but an idea that came to my mind would be to take your phone. They do timestamp photos. You can take a snapshot of someone installing it or that they are on the premises, and send that into the appraiser and see if that might work, or into the bank or whoever you might want to send it into, or your mortgage broker. To go old school, grab a paper and take a photo of you putting the thing up with the local date on it. I mean, that's really old school. So
you don't need to do that with your phone. Well, the other thing, you could do a video of you doing the install, and it's like,
yeah.
It's like, we just installed these, here's the date on it.
Yeah, video would be fantastic. Great idea, Bernice.
So to kind of wrap up for today, first of all, do you expect things to kind of stay kind of the way they are? I know nobody has a crystal ball here, and this thing gets worse, then all bets are off. But I guess kind of the takeaway I'd like to hear from you is what's going on right now. What are your top 1 or 2 recommendations for the agents about what they can do in their markets to kind of deal with the virus and what's happening?
My number one thing is don't hide, guys. We've always talked about in real estate, don't be a secret agent. And right now, more than ever, your current clients, past clients, friends, family, co-work, your community need to see you, need to see that what you're doing out and about. I had a good friend of mine in Australia, Glenn Twiddle, and one of his clients during the fires last year stayed behind in his community and not looking for publicity, started cooking massive amounts of food for the firefighters, cleaning water for the firefighters and the animals. And his visibility went through the roof, not for an ego push, but because he truly loved his community. So something that kind of like, I use this little guy. This is called it's an Insta360 little camera. What you do is you take your iPhone or Android, they make them for Androids, and you literally take it and you just plug it right into your power port right there. And then this thing now becomes a 360-degree camera that you can just take videos or photos of your local communities, do interviews with people on the street. You can do a ton of different things with this, but you can stay very relevant. If you don't have one of these or you don't want to spend the money on it, it's okay. It's about $120, give or take. You could go and do Facebook Lives with local businesses. You can talk to, make a community page. Like I have one for my area called the 925, because I live in the 925 area code, right? And go to a local business, say, hey, Bernice, you're a dressmaker. You're not an essential business, so you guys aren't really, your doors can't be open or aren't open. Can I come in and we'll do a video of what you guys have for inventory and talk about what's going on, and you can showcase your product, and then I can share this out to your news feed as well, so that you can your clients and your past clients can see that you're still active. I mean, that's just one thing that I could recommend doing. And I know a lot of you guys don't want to do video, but right now, I mean, this is your opportunity to be seen and not be seen as weird. Everyone's going to be on video right now, at least for the time being.
Let me circle back here, because one of the things you said, and that about the way you're using your camera there that you've got with the to do the 360.
Insta360, yeah.
Yeah. People are reluctant to have strangers come to their house. Well, if they know and trust you enough to be talking to you about listing, you can offer to go in, make sure you've got hand sanitizers, gloves, whatever, and then take do the 360 of their house. So now that you've got a 360 tour of the property, so, that to me was a huge takeaway when you brought that up, because you'd mentioned that before, that you used it that way.
Yeah, so if you guys were to get a 360 camera like Insta360 or any other 360 camera, let me give you guys a little bit of a tip that I learned the hard way when I bought this a couple of years ago. Typically when we shoot a video through a house, we're moving through the house and we're showing the angles and we're going like this, right? With these, what you need to do is go into the center of the room, stop for a 10 to 15 second count, walk to the next room, 10 to 15 second count, go to the middle of the room, go to the middle of every room and do that count, middle of the bathroom, middle of the bedroom, middle of the backyard, in the front of the house, the entire thing, because people are going to be swirling up and down and right and left and everything else. So give them time to see the environment that you're in and then move on to the next room.
I have a question. So is that thing automatically swirling around, or do you have to turn it?
Nope. You get to turn it with your mouse on a computer or your fingers on a mobile device.
But when you're taking it, though, I mean,
nope. You just literally hold it. That's all you do.
You don't really, and it goes around the room?
Yeah, you just hold it. I just put it above my head like this, so they're not staring at my ugly mug the whole time, and I don't block anything. So I just put it above my head. I just walk around and I just do my thing.
Gosh, that's what, for $120 or whatever it is. Wow, that's a great deal.
Yeah, it's a great deal.
So my takeaway is, the great thing about the real estate industry, we're all entrepreneurs, and the best of us are really great problem solvers. We'll figure out how to get around this. Greg, you've given some fantastic solutions today. So we'd like to thank you for being with us. Look for us on our next show.
Thanks for joining us for Real Estate Coach Uncensored on Inman News. Be sure to tune in for our next show, when we'll be back to share even more ways you can grow your real estate business. For the latest news and analysis, check out the other great stories today on Inman News.